The way to start a business, they say, is to identify a problem that hasn't been solved, then come up with a solution. Boy, has Elon Musk done that in a big way. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. This channel is dedicated to finding out whether I really do know it all or not. If you enjoyed the video, definitely make sure you like it and subscribe for more of those. Speaking of which, definitely subscribe and also definitely check out this video because there is a 500 subscriber giveaway going on until October 10th, 2020. So if you watch this before then, you can get yourself a chance to win the Atlas Obscura, which is a fantastically interesting book. Also, as I'm sure you noticed, this is a very different environment that I'm in, and I'm on my headphones too. I know that the quality of sound and everything won't be as good, but this is actually my office. I've had to come in here to do some work, and because of COVID restrictions, we have these big blocks of time between when we can do sound recordings, so I'm sort of stuck here waiting anyway. So I figured I would go ahead and record this episode because I really wanted to get it out because I just find it fascinating. All right, so let's talk all things business and Elon Musk. I'm going to rewind in time about 2.5 decades here to the mid-1990s and talk about a historical example first. And of course, as most people know about Elon Musk, he founded PayPal. And it seems like such a run-of-the-mill thing now, you know, right? You want to make a payment, you go online to Etsy or you go online to whatever source you want to, and PayPal is almost always an option to pay for your goods. But in the 1990s, it was a whole different thing. This was actually a huge problem, and it was holding back the commercialization aspect of the web. You either had a choice of creating something like what Amazon did, which was to roll your own from scratch, right? To make a payment system yourself. That's very difficult to do, very expensive, and it was risky, quite frankly, because people might not go for it at that point, right? The other option was, who knows at that point, right? So enter PayPal, which if you think about the name, right, everybody just kind of like just goes PayPal, PayPal. But if you think about it, it's your pal for paying, right? So it's friendly, it's easy. The idea was to be very, you know, not off-putting and to say like everybody can do this, no problem. And so then what that did was it allowed mom and pop type stores to have a way of making safe payments. They, you know, you'd pay the 3 or 4% or whatever per transaction, but that's a huge amount less money and risk than it is to try to build your own at that time, especially. So PayPal actually solved a really, really big problem. We just don't really think about it anymore because the problem is solved. So turning to now, let's think about some of the world's biggest problems right now, right? Climate change, huge, huge problem. An extinction level event possibility like an asteroid or climate change, that's a possibility. Disabilities and age, the dangers of artificial intelligence, and I will put traffic in there too. I know traffic is not, you know, it's not an extinction level event, but it causes a lot of stress and a lot of, I don't know, we spend a lot of our lives in cars stressing out about how to get places and getting angry at people in front of us. So it actually is a bigger problem than you think. It causes stress, it causes us to age sooner because we're under stress, etc., right? So plus the fact you got pollution and all sorts of other nasty things going on. And of course, it actually kills people outright, right? A lot of traffic, a lot of drivers who are distracted, people can die in accidents. So that's, for sure, it's a big problem. So let's consider what companies has Elon Musk started? Well, he started Tesla. So what is the mission statement of Tesla? To accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, right? i.e. it is combating climate change. Now, I will also put in it deals with traffic when we get to full self-driving, but we'll deal with that in just a second. The next one is SpaceX, right? Extinction level event, right? The whole idea of SpaceX, the reason why it was founded was to get us to Mars and beyond. And that is to reduce, as Elon Musk has stated, the potential of an extinction level event. Apropos of SpaceX, I kind of totally forgot about this earlier, but another really huge problem that exists in the world is the lack of information parity, which means that for people who are in disadvantaged areas, whether that be geographical or economically, don't have access to the same amount of information as a lot of people with more access to that, obviously like us, where we have access to the full internet. And obviously, SpaceX and Starlink are working to solve that problem. If Starlink works as advertised, then really anywhere on the planet practically, except maybe at the very poles, will have access to high-speed internet. And that's an amazing thing. So I think that's definitely worth pointing out as a small addendum to SpaceX's other major missions. Next, Neuralink. What is Neuralink supposed to be doing? It's implanting electrodes, very, very tiny ones, into our brains to allow us to communicate with computers much more rapidly. The goal of this is, in the short term, to help people with severe disabilities like spinal disabilities and so forth. In the longer term, to help people who have mental issues, potentially even dementia and things, which, the older I get, the more that seems like a really good thing to me. And the last one is to increase our interface speed with computers. It's very, very slow to type. It's actually very slow to talk. How much faster would it be if we could communicate with a computer at multiple megabits or gigabits per second, as opposed to just a few bits per second? OpenAI, so that's another company. It doesn't get nearly as much attention as the others, and Elon Musk has backed off of that company because of just time issues. But he started this company specifically to work to make AI good and to help get us through the singularity, which is the moment when AI becomes self-aware. The goal of OpenAI is to help human beings, and Neuralink also, they're kind of combined, is to help human beings not only make sure that the artificial intelligence is on our side when it gets to that singularity, and as Elon Musk has said, the singularity is not necessarily a good or bad thing. What it is a pinching. It's a historical pinching, and you don't know what's going to happen on the other side of it. Just like a black hole singularity. What happens on the other side of a black hole, we don't know because it's a singularity. So the goal is to help us to navigate that singularity when it comes and make it as good an outcome for human beings as possible. Elon Musk is very much about making us kind of cyber-humans so that we're much more computer by the time we get there, and therefore we're able to evolve as quickly as the AI is able to do. But anyway, that's a big problem. OpenAI is there to help solve it. And last but not least, the Boring Company. What does the Boring Company do? They bore holes. They make big tunnels. It may not have been obvious at first, but what this all came out of Elon Musk just getting pissed off about driving around LA traffic. So he started thinking three-dimensionally, which is so cool, right? So rather than like, what can we do on a two-dimensional plane? He's like, well, we got all this space. People have thought about like rocket cars and things like that forever, but those take a huge amount of energy. Those are very difficult. Now, I'm not going to put it out of the question that either Tesla or SpaceX may eventually develop a VTOL electric plane. So there would be our up in the third dimension. But in the meantime, we've got these tunnels that are being built. I was in Las Vegas recently, and they're getting pretty close to finishing this tunnel that will allow it to go all the way down the strip. So how cool will that be, right? So his idea is that you can build as many tunnels as you want under the ground, and you can stack them three-dimensionally so that you can have traffic that is completely obviating the need to have more and more lanes and more space on the surface. So it'll be, and also obviously he's working towards helping us to create life on Mars, because having these boring tunnels underneath the Martian surface will resolve a huge amount of problems for habitat later on. But in the meantime, you've got that. And it works with Tesla and other electric cars, because you really can't drive gas-powered cars in a tunnel. You can, right, the Lincoln Tunnel, etc. But it's not the best solution. The best solution is to have something semi-autonomous, or even like a pallet that picks you up. So you drive your car, you get on it, you go to your next thing, your exit, whatever, and then you get off. So those are just amazing. Those could really, really help traffic. It could help people essentially have an expressway through a lot of traffic to do that. So again, not as big a problem as an extinction level event or climate change or something like that, but still, traffic is a big deal. So as is obvious from this super brief introduction, each one of these companies deserves at least a video or two on its own. I've done several on both Tesla and SpaceX, so definitely check up here and also just look at my videos. I think this is actually video number 90, so there is a lot of videos. You can go back. If you want to climb down a rabbit hole, feel free. Just look through all the videos. You can find a whole bunch of interesting stuff, I hope. But anyway, let's just take a look at all of these companies overall. What has happened was, it's easy to identify something like climate change as a problem, but not only has Musk had the insight to identify 5 of the biggest problems humanity has, he has also had the balls, or the cojones, or whatever, let's try to keep it nice, to do something about it. That is an amazing thing. Like, to do one of these things would be historical. To do all 5, and plus PayPal, and potentially others in his lifetime, is, I think, unique in history. I don't think anyone else has ever taken this on, at least from a business perspective. Right, so like I complain about climate change and traffic all the time, but I sure haven't started any companies, to do something about it. I think one thing that's interesting is to compare Elon Musk to Steve Jobs, which other people have done. Steve Jobs is amazing. He was a hero of mine. It was very tragic the day he died, and I hope and pray that Elon Musk lives a very much longer life than Steve Jobs tragically had his cut short. But Steve Jobs basically did one thing. He worked in computers. He made computers. He made them amazing. He changed the whole paradigm, and eventually phones, right? But within the same sort of realm. And I think he very well deserves to be a historical figure and for people to look up to him forever. But that's just like a fifth or a sixth or something of what Elon Musk has done. So it just sort of puts it in perspective how outrageous this man is and how amazing his achievements are. And the fact that he did, I mean, space exploration and cars are two of the most capital intensive businesses you can get into. And they should fail. There's no reason why either of these should have succeeded. And both of them almost did, right? SpaceX almost lost it in, I think it was 2008, when they were on their fourth Falcon 1 launch, and if it hadn't gotten to space, they had no more money. And Tesla almost lost it. They almost went bankrupt when they were working on the Model 3 ramp up and had a very difficult time doing that. So in both cases, it came really, really close. But Elon Musk personally, helped push this thing through. He's also an engineer. He's not a salesman. He's not an accountant, whatever. He understands this stuff. And as a fellow, engineer, science type person, I really admire that. And I also admire the fact that he's able to do the business end too, because I am not that person. I have the engineering and the scientific mind. I have nothing of the business mind. So it's just amazing that he is able to combine all of these different features. And finally, I think what makes it even more amazing is that Musk really appears to be doing this from an ethical standpoint. Now, I'm not arguing that he doesn't want to make money, and he's one of the richest people in the world, but that is a really recent thing, and he literally put up almost all of his own money for these companies like SpaceX and Tesla. So he would have gone close to bankrupt at the same time. So these businesses are not charity, but that money making is very much secondary, it seems, to the other missions of these companies. And I love that about this, right? I'm very happy for him to be a wealthy man, and I'm happy for people at SpaceX and Tesla and the Boring Company, etc., to become wealthy if they are successful. But I love the fact that it's not short-term goals. It's not just get as much money as you can from the shareholders. Nicola. And, they're actually looking towards the future, and they're trying to help humanity. What an amazing thing that is. So what's left in terms of big problems, right? Well, there's disease. That's certainly a thing that in 2020 people have become quite familiar with. But actually, Tesla has been helping with this. They've been helping with vaccine development, and they also built ventilators during the early days. So, they've actually been trying to help with this. But certainly there is room to create companies that are more aligned with just thinking about disease as a whole. There is also, of course, food security and logistics. That is absolutely huge. There are tons of people, there are many, 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 millions of people starving on this planet, including in the United States, when there's food available for them to have. Now, we need help growing it more efficiently and more sustainably, but also the logistics of supplying it to people is a huge thing, right? Food goes to waste, massive amounts of food goes to waste, and that is criminal, really, that's not being given to people who need it. So that seems like a massive opportunity to make large-scale farming more sustainable. Also, of course, we have nuclear weapons from the Cold War. That sort of feeds into the extinction level event, but doing something about that would be a huge, huge task to undertake also. And finally, the last thing I can think about is toxic waste all over the planet. That comes from mining, which Tesla needs to deal with because, that is an ethical issue. It comes from nuclear waste. It comes from mistreatment of the environment, etc., etc. So that seems like another very large issue too. If I'm forgetting another really big world earth-shaking kind of issue, perhaps population control, I don't know. But anyway, let me know in the comments. I would be quite interested what other ideas you have for big picture problems. So first of all, do you think maybe Elon Musk might do something about one of these one day? It is possible, I imagine. He could end up stepping into the whole disease control issue, since he seems to have a definite issue with that. But if not, he's definitely done enough already. Nobody can complain about the fact that he's been resting on his laurels. So there you go. So what I suggest is perhaps what you should do is you should take on one of these other tasks, and you should help make the future of humanity better, right? Somebody has to do it, so why not you? Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, apologies about probably the sound quality is not going to be that great, and also this behind me is not the most fantastic. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, definitely make sure you like and subscribe. Also, definitely make sure you check out that other video that's linked in the info here and actually down in the description as well, if it's before October 10th, because you might as well get yourself set up for the contest and win yourself a book. In the meantime, please ask me questions in the comments or at my email address, which is drknowitallknows@gmail.com. Till next time, bye-bye.